basically all of my ninja runs were at like 2 a.m. probably.
Will Kacy again make history?
When did the name change come together?
That was actually really hard for me because
Elite, nothing's been able to stop her, Catanzaro.
the group that I came in with were so experienced, like such experienced wrestlers.
Kacy's seeing an opportunity maybe here.
Oh, you're kidding. Look at this. She's still in it. No way.
Rhea, at the time, she, you know, obviously she's gone through her journey to like where she is now. Her characters were very different, but she was definitely somebody that I always like looked to when I got there.
Lance of blood.
Wow. Tremendous athletic ability in the Hurricane Rana.
Recently, there were some changes for you to possibly explore new opportunities.
Yes.
Have you thought about what you want to do going forward?
It's so funny because I'm like, so basically we had to film overnight because they want to be able to change the order, right? So if there's 100 of us competing, they want to be able to say I went second, but they want to put me last. They want to decide that later, so the sky has to look the same. So it has to be like pitch black. So we start filming at like 9 p.m. Literally, like sometimes until they'd be like, we need to rush and get this person in before the sun starts coming up. So like it would be till like 6 in the morning. Basically all of my ninja runs were at like 2 a.m. probably.
Would that mess with you? Like, were you tired?
Yeah, we've gone back and forth where it's like, should I adjust my schedule and stay up late? But then sometimes it doesn't work, so you just don't sleep as well, and then you're like, no, I'll just like be tired that day instead. Yeah. So you've gone through all the phases.
What are some of the biggest misconceptions that people might not realize about Ninja Warrior that affect each run? Like the condensation, are they drying that off for everybody?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been there for like 8-9 years. You know what I mean? So I don't know what's different. But when I was there, it definitely mentally messed with you because it was overnight. You're tired. You don't know when you're about to run. And then like one of the ones in California were like near the water. So you're like, oh, is the course slippery? Like, are my feet slippery? Like, obviously, if there was something visibly wrong, then we would ask and be like, can we wipe this? Like, or if somebody splashed in the water and something got wet, you know, we'd be like, okay, can we wipe this? But it's stressful because they're also rushing because there's so many people that have to run before the sun comes up. So it's like, they're like, okay, you're up. And then you're like, okay, can we wipe that? Like, it's just like such a high stakes like moment. You know what I mean? So yeah, there were so many little things like that, I feel like.
Can we go back to the beginning?
Yes.
So you graduate Towson
Yep.
in Maryland. Where does American Ninja Warrior find you, or how do you find it?
Okay, so I loved American Ninja Warrior. Like growing up, me and my dad would watch like the original Japanese version, like Sasuke, and I remember just my dad being downstairs like, Case, guess what's on? I'd run down, we'd watch Ninja Warrior. It was like the voiceover. It was so much fun. Like the characters were amazing. And so when I had always loved it. I didn't think in those moments like, oh, I think I'm going to do that one day. I just thought like, I loved it. This is really cool. Then I did gymnastics my whole life for 18 years, finished college. Once I finished college, I had surgery on my ankle to kind of like just, you know, fix everything up that had been wrong over the years. And I was laying on my couch with like a cast on, and I'm watching American Ninja Warrior now. And as I'm watching it, they just keep saying over and over again, like, no woman's ever completed the course. No, so that every time a woman runs, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Is she like, what's she going to do? You know? And they just kept saying it. No woman's ever done this. And I was laying there like all, you know, in a cast, and also in like this crisis transition where like I've done gymnastics my entire life. What am I going to do next? I love the competition. I love challenging myself, and I love fitness. So I had no idea what I was going to do after I graduated when it came to that. So I'm watching, and they're just like, no woman's ever done it. And I'm just laying there like, I wonder if I could do this. Like, I wonder if I would be able to. I mean, gymnastics is a good background for it. You know, it looks fun. It looks hard, but it's something I could like go after. And so at the time, it wasn't quite as popular yet where I was able to like apply, like go online. I was able to even like contact some of the ninjas I had seen on there and been like, how do you get into it? How do you train? Like, it was more accessible then, I feel like. And so yeah, I was just like, okay, I think I want to do this. You know, found some people to help me train, was able to go to Texas where they were building this company, you know, having to do with obstacles, and then made my submission video and was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to give it a shot.
So did they believe in you at the beginning, or did you have to prove yourself?
I feel like they knew that, I think that they accepted me in because they were looking for women that had good backgrounds because, they wanted women to do well. And at the time, no woman had finished the course. So they were definitely looking for women that were talented enough to do it. So when my first year that I came in, everybody was amazing. And there's however many obstacles on the course, the warped wall is the last one, right? It was 14 feet at the time.
And no woman has ever done it.
No woman had ever done it. And I got to the obstacle right before that, my very first year. And I remember I fell and I was really bummed, but I'll never forget this guy said something to me. And I wish I could remember who it was because I want to say thank you for it. And I really do think that he thought he was saying something nice to me. I know, yeah, just to preface it, I really think he thought that. And he basically said, because I was bummed, and he basically said, "You did really good for a girl." And I was like, in the moment, I'm like, "Oh, thank you, yeah, I got far on the course, made it through a good amount of obstacles." But then as I turned away, I was like, man, I don't want it to be that. I don't want it to be oh, for the girls never finish, so you got pretty far. I wanted it to be no, you did great. You were awesome. I wanted to just prove that that second part didn't need to be there. You know what I mean? And that kind of lit the fire for that whole next season to train, came back, and that next year is when I made it up the wall. So I always think about him, and I'm always no, this year I'm going to do great, or she can do great. We can all do it. It doesn't have to be, this separation and this thing where it didn't seem possible before, You
really inspired so many people because you were the face of that.
It's crazy to think about because it was so, right now, that run was over 10 years ago, which is crazy. And it feels like such a different lifetime for me, if that makes sense.
You've done so much since.
It's just so weird that sometimes I forget it, that it happened, or that people cared that much about it because it's just, so much time has gone by. But it's always really, really heartwarming to see when that does happen. There are girls that, are on the show these days that I've met them and they're like, "Oh, I started Ninja Warrior because I saw your run." And I was like, "Oh, I want to do this now. Girls can do this." You know what I mean? And so that's always been super important to me. Obviously, I'm smaller, I'm a woman, whatever other things people might think that stacks against you. I've always been really passionate about proving that wrong for other people. You know what I mean? Whatever they think, it might not be that they're short or whatever it is, but whatever the insecurities are that we let other people put on us, I'm very, very passionate about helping people see that it doesn't have to be that way because it's hard. It's hard to not think that sometimes, and it's hard to not get dragged down by it, and it's hard to not believe it, so we got to prove ourselves wrong sometimes, in that confidence and proving other people wrong. So I really love that.
When Tony Hawk did the 900 for skateboarding, it was groundbreaking. He did it live in front of the crowd. Did you practice that wall? Did you already know that you could do it at that point? Had you done it successfully?
So luckily at the gym that I was at in Texas, they had a warped wall. There was a place in California, Tempest, a free running place that I had gone up a warped wall before, but you never actually know the exact dynamics of it. So
the
each
arch?
wall, yeah, it might be the same height, but the angle of it and the run up and how curved it is at the top or how much the run up is. Ninja Warrior doesn't just they wouldn't give you the specs of their obstacles, obviously, you know what I mean? So every single gym that I went to, the wall was different, you know what I mean? So I knew that I had gotten up a wall that height before. But when I actually got there, we don't get to practice. We don't get to touch the obstacles. You know what I mean? So when I got there, I was like, okay, I have done a wall before.
Do you get a walkthrough? You get to just
No.
look? You don't? That's crazy.
Oh, to look at it, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes. We get to, we walk through and they tell us all the rules. So we're walking next to the obstacle and basically they'll say to us, okay, you can't touch this or you can't use your feet on this or you have to land here and make sure so that people aren't just, mayhem, and then they're like, you can't do that and it wastes time, whatever. So we do get to do that.
But you don't get a dry run.
You don't get to touch the obstacles. You don't get to do anything. So when it happened, I remember standing there and being like, okay, I know I have gotten up a wall before, but it looks so tall. Like standing there in that moment, it's like 3 times my height. You know what I mean? Like it looks so tall. And also I had done like, 5 other obstacles right before that. So as I get up to it on my run, I remember being like, okay, you can do this, like deep breath. You get 3 tries at it only on the warped wall. So every other obstacle, if you fall in the water, you're out. When you get to the warped wall, because there's no like water to fall in, it's basically just like you get 3 attempts. And if you don't make it on the 3rd attempt, you're out. So I go up and I'm like, okay, take a deep breath. I'm tired from the other obstacles, like shake it out, whatever. I do my first run and I don't make it. And I'm like, okay, like everything's fine. I have other chances. And then when I go for my second run, I think to myself, like, I really don't want to not make this run and only have one left because that's like way too much pressure. Like too much pressure to only have one left. And then in my head, I'm like, okay, not making the first one is just just enough suspense for people.
It builds it up a little
to build
bit.
it up, but I don't want to miss another one. Like, you know what I mean? So took a deep breath, turned I think I turned around and like to not look at it and like took a deep breath to do it. And the second time I made it up and it was like, I can't even like remember fully the feeling because it feels like a dream. You know what I mean? And it was really exciting. And then actually the next night you go right from that qualifying run. The next night you film the next round basically because they're in your city still. So the qualifying run is all the way up to the warped wall. And then the next level is you run that course again and have to make it through. And then you have to get through another like 5 obstacles after that. So it's longer. So then I had done it the first night and I made up the warp. I was like, okay, like I did it. Like this has never been done. This is crazy. Then the next day I had to do it again and like make it up the wall again and then keep going. So then I was like, oh my gosh, I've already done this. Okay, can I do it again? Is it, so there was like kind of this extra layer of pressure. Like, okay, now that I've already done it, I can't not do it today. Like, you know what I mean? And also, the commentators, they're amazing. They want to, make it the most interesting. So as we're talking and, they're like, okay, like, was last night a fluke? Is she able to make it? And I'm like, okay, this is even more pressure than yesterday, actually. Like, if I had not made it the first time, they would have just been like, she got close. But if I made it and don't make it again, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, it was a fluke, So now I'm like, even more pressure, like, okay, I have to make this.
It's crazy. You don't even get to enjoy, like, the celebration.
Literally. And so I was able to, make it up the wall the next night, which was good. But then I had like 5 more obstacles ahead of me. I got relaxed. I told them like, I'm just like not going to rush. I'm going to take just to say that. But inside I was like freaking out. And just each one that I made, I was like, okay, the crowd was amazing. They were like super behind me. So that really helped. At one time I even was like, thanks, I love you guys, like to tell that, like, because it was really helpful to be like, okay, people are excited. I have to do this. They're watching me. They're cheering for me. They're here at 3 a.m. Like, we got to do this. And so I was able to complete the city finals course that night, which was really cool because it happened so fast where like no woman had completed the course up to the warped wall. And then I was able to complete that course. And then we did the city finals and I like completed the next course as well. So each obstacle that I did, they were like, no woman's ever, ever attempted like the salmon ladder, And then like I did this. They're like, no one's ever attempted it, and she did it, and and there were like these far jumps that like people in the crowd, the other ninjas watching, were like, she's not gonna make it. Like she's not gonna be able to make that. And then like they would show it. It just the way they edit it too, like to show everybody watching. The commentators did an incredible job. That like when you're watching it on TV back. It's so exciting to see. You know what I mean?
What does that do to your life that next day?
Well, so the hard part is it's not live on TV. So that happened, and then it didn't air for like months and months. You know what I mean? So
you're sitting with this thing.
Yeah, and I think there was actually like, it was kind of amazing because when it happened, I knew, the people there knew, and my like close people knew. And I thought it was the most exciting thing ever. But I didn't realize how much it would actually blow up after when it aired. Like I thought, okay, some ninja people are going to be excited. They have like a good fan base. This is going to be cool for like us as the ninja community.
Like the group,
and fans and like fans, like diehard fans of ninja are going to think this is so cool. And that was enough for me. I was like, I just wanted to prove women could do this, you know. I wasn't prepared that when it aired that like so many people would care. People that didn't know American Ninja Warrior and like, you know, throughout it was a much bigger accomplishment than I thought, if that makes sense. And I thought it was huge, but I just thought like our little circle would care about it. I didn't know that like actually the world would care about it, if that makes sense.
Totally.
So it was like when it aired, I was not prepared for the blow up of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was crazy.
How did you go from American Ninja Warrior to WWE?
So let me think. After that run, I did American Ninja Warrior for 5 seasons. So that was my second season on the show. And it's a reality show. So we signed a contract.
And it's the first of its kind, too.
Yeah, it's incredible. We signed a contract with them, like, you know, you can't do any other reality shows without, you know, going through them and like non-compete type things, you know? So the year after my run, I was on let me get the name of this right. It was like a list. It's like Sports Illustrated 50 fittest women or something. 50 fittest women athletes, something cool like that. It was really cool. And I was on that, and I believe that's what WWE saw and came to me. They contacted me. I don't even know how. I can't remember. It was so long ago. But whatever it was, I ended up on a call. And
do you remember with who? Michael Cole, Triple H?
Definitely, I would have remembered if it was Triple H. I want to say it was Canyon. I want to say that it was Canyon, like who had done the contracts at the time. And they had said, we want you to be on Tough Enough. And so at the time, that's a reality show as well. You know what I mean? And so it was American Ninja Warrior. At the time, I wasn't ready to leave American Ninja Warrior. So I was kind of like, oh, like I'm not able to do this TV show right now because I'm still doing this one, you know? And they were very understanding. They're like, okay, we'll be in touch. Like, let us know if anything changes and, you know, whatever.
Was that call out of the blue for you? Like, did you watch wrestling?
So I watched wrestling growing up. Me and my sister, my sister Jess is 2 years older than me. We loved watching wrestling. We were in our basement, like, being crazy people,
Super
wrestling.
New Jersey,
yes, watching wrestling in our basement. And it's actually really funny because my parents, like, we joke about it now because they knew that we were watching wrestling, but they didn't watch it with us. So they didn't actually know what we were watching. And so I'll never forget. Remind me to get back to what I was saying, but this is a funny side story where when I was in high school, I got really sick. I was in the hospital for a while. My mom was there with me, like, you know, to keep me company. And my sister brought me our like VHS tapes of like the best of whatever the wrestlers were. And so my sister, she brought like one of the like best of Stone Cold. And so, you know, to make me feel better. So we're in the hospital watching this. Yeah, exactly. And my mom is there watching for the first time. Like, we were kids and she's like, oh, they're watching wrestling, whatever, you know, have fun. And so the best of Stone Cold.
Like, of all the wrestlers too.
And he's like, you know, beer hosing people, like smashing things on his head, like cursing, craziness. And my mom, I'm like 18 at the time now. My mom looks at us and was like, this is what you girls were watching in the base. I let you watch this when you were like 10. And it is like one of the funniest, we laugh about it still to this day. So yes, grew up watching wrestling. Kind of similar to when I watched American Ninja Warrior. I wasn't watching wrestling thinking, oh, I'm going to be able to do that one day. I just thought they were incredible magic superstars that like weren't real. You know what I mean? They're just so out of this world. Yeah. So I wasn't like, this is my goal, I'm going to be this. But I was just amazed by them. You know, I loved it. I was a big fan.
Who else did you like?
And okay, so me and my sister loved The Rock, Stone Cold,
Hardy Boys.
Hardy Boys, favorite. Randy Orton was always a favorite. Obviously Triple H and Shawn.
Do you remember when John Cena debuted?
I don't think so.
I remember watching that.
I was like kind of young still, you know, watching it, but I don't know that we like were able to like be there every episode and see it. I just know like whenever we could, we were like, let's go watch wrestling. You know what I mean? But I feel like I was a little young to fully remember, but I just know that we loved it. Someone asked me a question recently, and they were like, what would like one of your dream like tag team matches be? And I said the Hardy Boys, and everybody was like, what? Like, I thought you would have said like, a girl. And I'm like, oh, well, I just remember watching the Hardy Boys and being like, they are out of this world. How are they real? How is he jumping off of this? And with me and Lacie, like I feel like we were inspired a lot by them with kind of doing like crazier stuff. And
I mean, that's literally what I see when I'm watching you.
Oh, well, thank you. So yes, they were always like we love them.
Would you practice wrestling moves as a kid?
We wouldn't like unsafely crazy be doing like suplexes and crazy stuff. But me and my sister would like wrestle around. We would like wrestle around and like on the bed. I know for sure I've like fallen off of the bed and hit my like a windowsill like when I was younger. And another one that my mom's like, oh, what are you? Oh, we're just jumping on the bed. Sorry. And I'm like crack my head on the windowsill. Like, so yes, definitely loved it growing up. Very fun. But I never thought in my head I could do that. So when WWE came to me, it wasn't the right time, but I also was like, wait, like you're the real WWE. You want me to be in the ring? Like it didn't like compute. Even though I had just done this like, groundbreaking thing for women, I still was like, well, I'm small. Like all those things still come back into your head. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, I'm really tiny. Like, I don't know if I could do it. I didn't say those things. I just thought them in my head. And it wasn't the right time anyway. I was still like really kind of taking off with American Ninja Warrior. I wasn't ready to leave. So it was okay to like let me think about it, So then the next year, same thing. The Sports Illustrated like 50 Fittest Women list came out. I was on it again. And WWE came back and they were like, hey, has anything changed? Would you want to be on Tough Enough? Blah, blah, blah. And I still was like, I'm interested, but I still can't do another reality show because of American Ninja Warrior. And so then they came back and they were like, okay, well, what if you just came to the Performance Center and checked it out? You don't have to do Tough Enough to come. You know what I mean? We just thought you'd be cool on the show, but you don't have to go that way,
They want to just train you, see how you like it.
Yeah. And so that was around when the first Mae Young Classic was happening. And they were like, hey, we have something we think that you would love. Like, this is the first... Was it the first all-women's tournament? This is the first all-women's tournament. And, it's this really cool, groundbreaking thing for us. And we think that goes, like, really along with you and what you're doing and, what you're doing on your end of things. And so I was like, okay, that does sound really cool. And so they brought me to the Mae Young Classic to watch and, meet people.
And like, live?
Oh, it was so cool. It was amazing. And, like, it being all women, obviously, I was like, this is so cool. At the time, because I wasn't in the wrestling world, I don't know if I realized how cool it was for the women. Like, I thought it was cool, but it was just such a bigger moment than I realized for them, which is amazing.
Do you remember being in awe by anyone specific?
I just remember, I don't know if I could remember anyone specific. I just know that being there live was I had never been to like a live wrestling thing before. Like I'd always watched wrestling growing up, but I never like had gotten to a show or anything like that. So being there, it was at Full Sail, and I just remember in real life, and especially too because back when I watched, there weren't as many women wrestling, obviously, not as many. And so to come out and see the entire thing be women and them like be right in front of me and them also just be like normal people that I met, you know what I mean? Like it was kind of the first time that I realized that they were like normal people that were wrestling. You know what I mean? They were always like these just superstars that were so far away that now the girls were wrestling. I was meeting them. Everybody was nice, and I was like, oh, wow, this is like really cool. I had never seen the world before. You know what I mean? So I got to see that and loved it. And then they were like, okay, well, would you want to come? Would you want to come train? It was kind of like a different type of tryout where they were like, come for like the week and see everything and train. We want to train you a little bit and see what could happen. And so it took a little bit of time. Like from the first time I spoke to them to the time I actually started was like over 2 years later. It was like, it was really hard for me to leave American Ninja Warrior, but I felt like I had gotten to the point where I was ready to transition. Like I had been there for 5 seasons. It was almost like there were women that had said to me like, oh, I I started because I saw you, do it. And then like they were like kicking my ass. You know what I mean? Like they would like come in and be like these like young girls being like, "Oh, I started because of you," and I'm like, "That's so cool." And then they would just like like they were passing me, that like I had done my part. You know what I mean? I feel like I had accomplished a lot, and I was like, it like didn't need me anymore. You know what I mean? Like that they had their own like these girls were ready to kind of take over, if that makes sense.
Now that it's all said and done, do you have any reservations about leaving? Do you wish that you did anything differently then?
That's a really good question. I don't think so. I'm happy with my journey, and I feel like it was the right time. I could have stayed longer. It also like this will spiral into longer, but I'll keep it kind of short, where the pressure after my big runs on American Ninja Warrior, like it did take away a lot of the enjoyment in my runs after that, if that makes sense. Like there was, from not the people there, but from like the world, there was this different type of pressure where like it was amazing to do this amazing thing, but then all the haters and everyone's that's like, oh, like then I come in and I slip on a balance obstacle or something, which happens. It's like the top guys can come in and anything can take you out. It's not like, oh, you suck because you fell, and people that watch don't know that, obviously. Like it's like the slip of a second, your foot is like a millimeter off, whatever it might be. And so it turned into the next season I came back and didn't do as well, because that's what happens. And it was very heavy. Like I had never had that before. You know what I mean? Like been in the public eye with a lot of people looking at you and expecting a lot of you, and then like a lot of haters as well, So when I didn't do as well, and then like it was just everybody like, okay, well, she sucks, and it was just one time and whatever and blah, blah, blah. Well, people will say anything, there's haters everywhere. But
Half
I was
the time
younger.
They don't even mean it.
Yeah, I was younger. I had never had that before. And so that was really hard on me, trying to balance like being the face of this and then like not succeeding after that as well, and feeling like, well, am I like letting down what people want to see from me? And like I did this really cool thing, but like then I didn't do as well. So now am I like not good enough anymore? And it was just like this, it became more like pressure than it was like I loved doing it. And that's when I knew that, okay, I think maybe it's time for me to transition. So if I could do anything differently, I would say learn quicker that like those, outside things don't matter. But I think it's a hard thing to learn, and I'm okay that it took that for me to learn it, if that makes sense. So I feel like I wouldn't change it, because at the time, mentally, it was the right choice. But if I could go back and have learned quicker not to listen to, like, not to let people take that away from me, I wish I could have, but maybe it takes going through it to learn it. You know what I mean? So I feel like I don't know if I could have done anything differently.
Being the face of Ninja Warrior, what were the perks of that at the height of it?
It was really cool. I mean, like, even little things like, the thing on the TV, like, being me, like, reaching for an obstacle.
Coming
or
out.
like, looking for, like, reaching for the ring or something. Or, like, similar to, like, in WWE, like, if your face is on the bus or something. Like, we had, like, posters that would hang up there, and they had, like, they picked a few people to be on it, and I got to like be on one of the posters and little things like that, very similar, where it was really fun. And even things like I got to do like Good Morning America, the Today Show, like all of the like really cool like normal life things, I'll say, that like I said, I kind of thought my American Ninja Warrior people would care. I didn't know that like actually the whole world would care. And so to do these things, these talk shows and appearances and things with people that like didn't know anything about American Ninja Warrior and still thought that like this was a really cool moment, is I think where it really hit me that this was much bigger like than I thought it was. So it was cool to kind of be the face of that, and because it was for like a really good reason. It wasn't just like, oh, like
You're just
you
on it
look,
for on
yeah,
it.
like you looked good today, and I took a picture of you and I put it on here. It was like
You
for,
accomplished.
Yeah, it was like, to break this barrier and kind of show that the women are capable of this. And then even then, that year, other women after I did got up the wall. So it wasn't like, it was almost like it opened the floodgates. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, oh, I made it up the warp wall and then like no other woman's ever done it. It was like maybe for them that extra little thing, like, oh, like it is possible to do it. Because I had other women that when we compete, they like, you know, they're all in different times. And I had other people like had heard about it and been like, you made it up like, did you make it? You did? And I'm like, yeah, like we can do this. Like we can, all, you know what I mean? And it's kind of that original thing where then that same season, I think maybe 2 other women, I think that same season had made it up after me. So it's like, that's what I wanted, was to open those floodgates and be like, we as women can like kick ass here and show everybody. And it just was a really cool change to make. Yeah.
Did you like competing against people, or did you prefer the singles?
So I like the singles better, just because when you do the when you run side by side, it's so stressful. I'm on the edge of my seat for it. Yes, which is very entertaining. And I just didn't have much experience in that. Back when I competed, it was like you did the singles one. The only time we ran side by side was for the different one, which was like Team Ninja. So that was like a completely different show like than when we did it singles. So I definitely prefer the single ones. I like just being in control of myself and what I have to worry about. And then, when someone's next to you.
Are you focused on her? Because when she slipped off the thing.
That's what I mean. You can't not be, because it's like, I have to adapt based on what you're doing, right? So like if you're just flying ahead of me, now maybe I was going to like, you know, jump on each one, and now maybe I'm going to try and skip one. And now like then that obviously makes it like more chancy for you to fall, which is why they do it. It's absolutely so entertaining. And it makes sense why, because people are like doing crazy leaps to try to catch the person next to them. So that was more high stakes. It was very fun, but I think I definitely enjoyed the singles one. Yeah.
So let's fast forward into WWE.
Yes.
Okay. So now your first steps are at the Performance Center where you're training.
Yes.
What's that doing to your body those first couple of weeks? Because you're a gymnast, so you're used to doing all the tumbles and the jumps, and you're using those muscles, but now you're like landing on your back.
Yes. No, it was crazy. I mean, gymnastics helped in the way that like I have body awareness and I know like how to catch myself a little bit more safely maybe, but that is like not anything that we have to do there. That was just like if something went wrong, I know how to like roll better and, you know, tuck my head or something like that. But the actual aspect of anything wrestling, I had no idea. And the group that I came in with were so experienced, like such experienced wrestlers that I happened to come in at the same time as. It was wild. So like, for example, imagine me walking in day one and Candace is next to me, who at that time had already been wrestling, I think, over 10 years or something like that. That might not be exactly correct, but something to that effect, that for a decade, like, she has been wrestling. And I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna like forward roll here and do whatever you say, you know. And then like War Raiders was like in my group, who combined had been probably 10 years each wrestling. You know what I mean? So it was just like so intimidating to walk in there. And especially because at the time, it was very rare that you came in and weren't wrestling before that. Like now, if you go to the Performance Center, like 50-50, mate. Like there's athletes and then there's people that came from the independents. Back when I came in, like...
You were one of the first that had your own name.
It was like 90% people had already wrestled before they got there. You know what I mean? That's like, obviously I'm making that up, but that's what it felt like. There were not like other athletes just like walking in, you know what I mean? And so... yeah, it was very intimidating, and it was very hard. It was so, like, hitting the ropes, you know, and I'm short, again, so, like, where I hit the ropes, and, like, if I, like, I remember one time, I, like, you know, you have to, like, put your arm on. I remember one time my arm didn't fully get on the rope to, like, catch myself, and because I'm short, it, like, I hit my, like neck head on the rope because I didn't have, because I'm smaller. And so I'm just like, but I want to like play it off, you know? So I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, okay, like whatever, you know, moving on. And then later on, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was rough. And so it was definitely really, really challenging. I mean, obviously skill wise, it was challenging, but then physicality wise too. I'd never done a contact sport. I had never done anything grueling in that way. You know what I mean?
You never had a partner really either like that.
No, nothing. It was always, like I said, I like running the ninja course by myself. Gymnastics, like it is me and the obstacle, me and the balance beam, me and the vault, me and the floor, anything. Like I am in full control of that. You know what I mean? So working with somebody else combat wise, whatever it is, that we're learning, it was very, very new to me. It was tough. Obviously, enough. Luckily, I mean, it's the best facility in the world to learn at. So I was very grateful for that at moments where I would feel like I was behind because things that I was learning, a lot of people like already knew. It became more positive because people would tell me like, we brought you here because we know that you don't know how to do this. We want to teach you how to do it. Like, you're not behind. We like want to teach you the habits that we want you to know. We don't want to have to change it. You know what I mean? So like in some ways it felt like it could have been a positive, but it was definitely really tough. Like, I mean, it is one of the hardest things in the world.
Who were your coaches at the time?
Brookside was like one of my first coaches. He is incredible. Norman Smiley. They were my first two, like, they teach the beginners. You know what I mean? And I'm very, very blessed for them. If they had been like, that's why I think that they're the beginners, like that they coach the beginner classes, because they have such a good way of teaching and not being, as you get further on, sometimes you need the harder coaches to kind of like lay into people and like, really like lay down the law. But in the beginning, it can be really scary. And I just felt so comfortable with Brookside and Norman that, yeah, they definitely always have a special place in my heart for taking care of me.
Are you living in Florida at this point? You're all in. This is what you're going to do.
When that happened?
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. I had moved to Florida already from Texas. So I moved to Florida. Actually, I had moved, and it was like the day after my birthday, we started at the Performance Center. So that's how I know. Like right now, when I'm like, how long was I there? I was like, okay, January of 2018, because it was like right after my birthday. So yeah, I had moved, all the way across, came to Florida, just little one-bedroom apartment, living by myself, going to the Performance Center every day. It was a huge change, but I was really excited for the challenge. And yeah, it has been a crazy journey. So I'm very grateful.
Is that where you figure out your style of how you're going to wrestle and what type of wrestler you're going to be?
At the Performance Center?
Yeah. Or is that more in front of the crowd? Like, where do you think you developed your style?
This is a very good question because I think for me, it's different. I'm trying to think about how to word this. So a lot of people that I've spoken to that had different experiences that came from wrestling on the independents and able to come here, a lot of people kind of did a lot of that there because there's a lot more freedom. You know what I mean? So I always kind of felt like at the Performance Center, I mean, for the people that came from the independents, they were like, oh, like, you being here is the dream. You know what I mean? Like, you're able to be here. This is better than anything. But then some other people would say, they got to kind of figure themselves out with the freedom of not having, producers and TV and all of these like restrictions on them. So I don't know if I ever fully was able to like really find myself in it, because when you're in there and then like you're getting on TV, you're kind of put in these spots and you're needed to be a specific thing right away. And you can try different things and try different characters, but like if it's decided kind of like where they want you to be, I just kind of wanted to like do that and do the right thing and do whatever they needed. And I don't know if I creatively enough like pushed those boundaries to be like, well, even though this is what I'm supposed to do, I need to figure out how to do what I'm supposed to be. So I think like that was an ongoing struggle of mine throughout my journey, which is I don't know that I actually ever got to do that. You know what I mean? And fully find if I was myself or like whatever I wanted to be with no restrictions, like what it would have been. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't know. That's why it's a really hard question. I feel like you do have the time before you get on TV. You're in the promo classes. You're doing stuff where like you are figuring out what works best, but what's going to stick out there, you never know. You know what I mean? So
what was it like working with the crowd that now you really had to interact with?
That was really new because, like I said, on American Ninja Warrior, like...
They're supporting you. They're cheering.
Yes, they're cheering. They're excited. I'm able to be like, thanks, guys, whatever. But going out in front of the like crowd and wrestling, it was so different. And it was its own beast of like figuring out how... I remember my first few matches, I like didn't even know the crowd was there. Because I was so you know what I mean? Like, I'd never wrestled before. I'm, like, so nervous. I'm just, like, don't forget this or do that or, like, or be careful or, like, ow, that hurt or whatever. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, God, okay. So I like remember people saying that's normal. They're like, you won't even, because sometimes they're like, oh, based on the crowd, you know, we'll do this at this time or whatever. And I would be like, I don't even know that a crowd's there. Like, and obviously that's not good. But at first, like, you're so concentrated, you know? And so as I got a little bit more confident and learned a little bit more, and then we got to do like, you know, the live events, which is obviously like a more fun crowd. Like, they really want to be there. It's more intimate at the live events. They are pretty excited. Like, they pretty much know, like, if you're a babyface, they know to be nice to you in the, you know, back at that time at least. And so I feel like that helped a lot, like the support from them of being like, I'm new and I'm like smiling. So obviously, like, hopefully be nice to me. Like, you know what I mean? And that definitely helped, like, figuring out the moments and like what do people like and what don't they like and how do they react, and then being able to like adjust things based off of that was definitely a learning curve, but I feel like it definitely made a huge difference in what I was able to do as a character once I learned that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
What was it like when you would walk back to the locker room? Would you reflect on the matches? Would you try and watch it back to see what you did, what you didn't?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I feel like the second I would walk away, I would have like 50 things like, oh God, I should have done this, should have that, you know, or what, you know, I was usually wrestling with girls that were more experienced than me. So that was really helpful. Obviously in the beginning where like I could ask them like, you know, what did you think of this? Or did I do anything or something? And then, you know, we always had Skull with our coaches. So like we could go back that week, we would watch it, which I hate watching my matches. I don't know if this is I don't know if it's a me problem or like if it's like a embarrassed thing. Even like, but for example, I'm staying with a friend of mine while I'm here, and she is like my biggest hype person. So I'm staying with her, and her parents were there, and she was like, "Oh, have you guys seen Kacy's American Ninja Warrior run? Like, we're gonna put it on." And I was like, "No, don't put it on, don't put it on." Like, and she's like, "No, they're gonna love it." And like, so it's not like specifically wrestling. I think it's just in general. I get like a little, you know, a little bit embarrassed, you know, nervous when I'm watching stuff with other people. So when we would watch our wrestling matches, I always felt that way. But I've met people, really experienced people, that would be like, oh yeah, I don't watch my matches back. Like, I don't like it, you know? But I would also be like, okay, well, you maybe don't need to because you don't need to fix that much probably. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can't remember who it was, or I wouldn't want to say, but it was like somebody very big up there. Like, oh yeah, I don't watch them. And I'm like, well, yeah, you don't need to. I need to, and I need to be like, that looked like trash. Don't do that again. Like, you know what I mean? So having that with the coaches is also like a really, really big plus, where we could watch the matches back. The other people are watching, like in your class watching, the coaches are watching, you know, we could say something and go and work on it. So it was definitely a very big like asset to have. I just always got a little bit like, okay, like you're like, maybe we won't have time for my match today. You know what I mean? And then it comes up, you're like, okay, it's fine. It's just, you know, just a little bit insecure. That's fine.
Who had a larger than life personality back in the locker room? Where you just see them walk by and the aura was there?
Oh, I would say when I got to the Performance Center, my first ones of that, I would say would be like Bianca. She was like kind of at the top in NXT when I got there. And so I would say definitely her. Also, like Rhea at the time, she, you know, obviously she's gone through her journey to like where she is now. Her characters were very different, but she was definitely somebody that I always like looked to when I got there.
Do you ever reflect on the match you had with her?
All the time. Like literally all the time. So I just was talking about this recently, and I was talking about doing I remember I told you I came to visit for the first Mae Young Classic, and then I was in the second one, you know, so I was so nervous. I was talking about this because with Raquel, she was my first round match, and Rhea was my second round match, and they both are so special to me because they have always been so good to me. Like when I came in very new and they were way ahead of me, they took such good care of me. And like with Raquel, she is like just always a very special place in my heart because my very first match on a live event was against her. And then my very first match on TV was the first Mae Young Classic match was also against her. And so we talk about that often. We reflect about that often. And same with Rhea. Like she Rhea has this thing where she makes everybody look like they are the biggest star in the world. You know what I mean? And so to come out and it be my second match on TV ever and have her just like selling her ass off for me and making me look good like when she didn't have to, I'll never forget that. So that's like one of my favorite matches to this day, and that was like 8 years ago. You know what I
She's
mean?
incredible. The moves you were hitting, phenomenal.
Thank you. I couldn't have done it without the base. You know what I mean? Without her being willing to and making it look good. So yeah, she's one of my favorites.
When you're about to hit them, are you thinking like, here goes nothing?
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, actually,
your style it's Jeff Hardy. It's like crazy. So much could happen.
yes. There was a move I did in the Mae Young Classic that I didn't do anymore after that because I fell on it and I was so scarred after that. And it was actually Lindsay had helped me come up with it. And it was like from the apron, it was a springboard, but where I would from the apron straddle over the top rope and then on the inside bounce off the second rope. If that makes sense.
Yes.
So I'd be like, go over the top one, bounce on the second one, and then do something. And so I did it in my first match against Raquel and made it. And then my match against Rhea, something happened. I slipped. And like it ended up being fine. But like in the moment, it felt like the end of the world. And then I don't think I did it again after that.
Because of that?
Because I was like, this is... A lot of the things I have done are very chancy, but there was something different about that one, the way that I had slipped on it, that I was just like, okay, I don't think I need this quite as much, so I'd rather do the ones that are like more unique and chance it on that than chance it on this. So it's totally different, like coming out with this style where like choosing a really like hard thing to do and it being at the end. Like there were times where like the handstand that I do, the head scissors, there were times where there were like really cool moments and somebody would come in, which I appreciate the ideas. They would come in and be like, oh yeah, like for the finish, let's do like, you know, you do the handstand, you know, whatever, blah, blah. And I would be like, okay, well, I usually don't do that at the end of the match because like it's like a lot of effort, you know what I mean? To like jump, get all the way up, turn. And you know, in my early days of doing the handstand, there were some times where I would, you know, go up and not make it over and I'd have to go again or I'd have to like, you know. And so I always was nervous about that. So then there were moments where I was like, okay, well, usually I don't do that at the finish because like at a live event, like 10 minutes in, like I don't know if I'm going to make it over. But then the good thing with live events too is like I would just always have a backup. So with certain moves of mine, I'm like, hey, I'm all about positivity. Everything's going to be great. Also, I would like to have a plan B just in case because I never want to put anyone in the position where like I didn't do something and now we're not in the right spot. So there were moments where I was like, okay, I'm a little nervous about this, but as long as we have a plan B, I'm okay with trying it. And it usually worked out.
Right.
But I always kind of had to have a backup because with things being so risky, I didn't ever want it to be that I didn't do something and then now we're just like, you know, what do we do? That, and it'd be like my fault. But those things were worth doing them when they succeeded, if that makes sense. So like the fear of that or having the backup was worth it to me because all of the other 98% of the times that I did them, it was like, it was still worth it, you know?
Right. So like with Ninja Warrior, we were talking about how maybe you're doing a different spot and things are getting a little moist and it's a little hard to like grip onto stuff. With your style of wrestling, what are variables that might affect the way that you're doing a certain move that the audience doesn't realize? Like new boots?
The ropes. The ropes is a very big one. So like how tight the ropes are, how loose they are.
Because they're a little different each time?
Yes, they can be. So usually they're the same-ish to the point where someone with a different style would never notice, where if you just hit the top rope and the middle rope and you're running the ropes and it's fine, or you have to do something, you know, whatever. But for me, like, for example, in my handstand, I jump off of the bottom rope with 1 foot in order to get up in the handstand because I'm shorter, so I have to figure out my own way, you know? And so there were times where I would go to do that and the rope was loose. So, like, if I go to push off of that and it's looser, then, like, I'm a little bit wobblier at it. You know what I mean? So little things like that, or even the top rope that my hands are on. I mean, like, I'm in a handstand and doing like a full half turn in it. So like if the ropes were a little loose or something like that, it like the landing might have been a little bit like not as perfectly. They might have had to catch me or something. You know what I mean? So things like that. And also I'll never forget another thing with the ropes. This was on live events, and it was like very early on where I didn't know the wrestling world as much. So like I didn't know that the men backstage with their long hair were like spraying wet conditioner into their hair and like baby oil all over them on these live events. And then they would go out and the ropes would be like wet baby oil conditioner, like whatever. I had no idea. So then like there was a time where I was doing something on a live event, and like I do my handstand very near the corner because I chose that because that's where the ropes are safest, because if you go to the center and they're loose, then they'll be a lot looser than the corner. So I always did it from the corner so that it was like the best case scenario it could be. But if you think about it, like the guys, and like if they're there and they're like in the corner and their arms are like whatever it is, they're like near those ropes. So there was this one live event and I had gone out and done something, put my hand, and I just like slipped off the rope. And I remember like just beating myself up about it, being like, man, I screwed up. I was newer. And I'm like, man, maybe like when I was figuring that out, I was like, man, should I not do as like these crazy things if I'm going to fall, And then I'll never forget somebody came up and was like, no, like the rope was wet because of the guys. And I was like, oh, I don't suck. It was that like, this was like a thing that happens. And then, it didn't happen after that many times, but I would be aware like, okay, if the guys are before us, do we ask the referee, like, hey, can you make sure that this is fine? Or for the most part, that was like a rare occurrence, but it happened. And then I learned very quickly, like, okay, be aware. Like when I'm there in the moment of the sequence, like feel it. Does everything feel fine? If not, like figure it out. And so the ropes are definitely a big one. I think I've also like slipped on the apron skirt. You know how it's like on the apron, the skirt, like the rope is there, and sometimes it's like further on the apron or sometimes it's like lower. So I've definitely done that where I went to like jump, but my foot was on like the edge of the apron skirt and I would slip. So little things like that when you're looking, you might not realize to like be aware of them until it happens. And then you're like, oh shoot, like I need to be very aware of this moment in my, so I feel like those are the most, like the ropes, the footing. For me, I think that's why I never wore boots. I only wore shooters, like the sneakers. I was afraid that if I wore boots and I wouldn't be able to feel the rope as much, or like would my feet be heavier, or like, which doesn't sound like a lot, but those boots are heavy. Like the wrestling boots and the soles on them, and when the girls get them, like they have to wear them in practice and break them in and like feel how it feels. And I just always worried that like that would hinder my style. Just because I'm like lighter, and I was like, what if my feet are too heavy and I can't do it? So yeah, when you mentioned like the boots or something like that, so I always stuck to the shooters to keep it safe too, which I think helped.
What about your in-ring gear? Who helps design that? Was that all you?
So my original one was more like, I had kind of wanted to go with more like ninja-y style, because at that time when I wasn't in my tag team yet and it was just me, and I was like, okay, like what would I wear? What represents me? So it was kind of more like, if you look back at the 2019 Rumble that I was in, like that gear was the more like kind of more ninja-y looking type gear. And then, obviously then when me and Lacie got put together and we were a tag team, that made it a lot more fun, because then like as a team, we could come up with ideas. We could wear different things. I went through so many phases where I was like, and also like other people are telling you things, which is helpful, but sometimes it can like get in your head too, So like I'm smaller, obviously. And so someone there had been like, oh, maybe you should wear pants, because like you're smaller, so like maybe if you wear pants, it won't look like like you have no clothes, like if my shorts are short because I'm small, you know what I mean? So like maybe pants would look good on you. So then I went through a phase where I only wore pants as gear because then I was just like, I can only wear pants, which is not the case. It just gets in your head. So then I wore pants for a while. And then still, learning my lessons as I go. And wore pants for a while, which I liked. And then having Lacie there was nice because we could play off it. When our character changed, that helped a lot too, because then I feel like I more so got into what I actually liked as gear instead of just like trying to maneuver things as to what I thought other people thought. So that was really helpful. Like with our when we changed our character to our more fun, like ravey type character, then I got to really experiment more with like what gears I liked, change them. I was doing like the like mesh chaps and having shorts, and one was like pants with mesh, one was it, and I didn't feel as like locked in that I had to be one specific thing.
Right.
So I feel like that really helped, but it's tough, you know? It's like, how do you pull like the vision from something but make it your own? And then when you do that, sometimes you do that and then you're like, oh, but this isn't made for me. Like, this looks cool, but this is not what is the best for me and my body, and then like move around. So I feel like through the years, my journey with the gear, I actually feel like I would say in this last year, I finally figured out like, okay, cool, I really like this. This was like, you know, it took me that long to literally be like, I think I feel the best in this gear the last like few months actually.
How did the character change come together?
So the character change was definitely more so Lacey's idea. She loved like, you know, like EDC, all the rave type things, even like the Rockville, the different types of like festivals, you know, concerts, things like that. And it's actually really funny. When she had suggested it and we were like, okay, we're going to pitch this, you know, we came up with the ideas, how to make it sound really great. But at the time we were in like a promo type class with Road Dogg, and I'll never forget this. So it, instead of like writing up some, like first we had gone to him for his opinion, just kind of like, okay, we're thinking of pitching this. Like we had at that time shown up in what we would wear as the characters, did a promo in it, and we're like, this is kind of what we want our pitch to be. Like, what do you think? You know, gave us his thoughts, whatever. And I remember he came back the next week and he was like, oh yeah, yeah, I told them your idea about like the, you know, the raves and the this, and we were just like, oh, I don't think like the drugs and the this and that is like really the look, you know. And we were like, wait, we didn't pitch any of that. What do you mean? And he was like, well, yeah, you said like the raves and the this, and you know, we were just like the drug. And I was like, we were like, no, that is not what we pitched at all. No, what did you tell them? And it was just like this ongoing joke of like that misconception of like it being just like a rave character. And we were like, oh my gosh, no. Okay, let us get into like our actual pitch, which was like it was all about like being inclusive to everyone. Like if you go to like a rave, it's everyone except everyone. Like if you look,
it's the plur lifestyle.
it's like, yeah, you look like this, you look like that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you're wearing, what your size is, you know, what your race is, what your age is, who that, like, none of it matters. Everybody is like so accepting and nice and fun. And that was our pitch. Like, cool, we want to be inclusive. We want to make the fans feel like they are at our party and everyone's welcome and we're having a blast and like we're happy they're there and they're accepted. And like this actual huge pitch. And he was like, oh, that sounds like really good. We're like, we want to pitch that, not whatever you said. It was like this ongoing joke. Then for like however long we would joke with him about it and be like, yeah, we're not bringing drugs into our promo. I promise that is not what we pitched. Like it was just hysterical. So yeah, I definitely, Lacie brought that to us, and then we were able to kind of be like, okay, this looks cool. How do we make it that it can be meaningful, that people can get behind? You know what I mean? And that was kind of like the journey of it, I would say.
When did the name change come together?
So that was actually really hard for me because when I came in, I almost was kind of like excited to like come in and get like a character, because I feel like they're going back to like eyes being on you and like, you know, negativity and stuff like that. I was kind of like, okay, cool. Well, if I'm this character, whatever people are thinking about this character, it's easier to be like, well, that's not me. It's not real. I'm playing this character like
There's
on TV.
separation.
There's separation. Where when it's you, that felt a little bit like too close to home. That like if you're like, you know, my name is Kacy on TV, and then the people are like, oh yeah, this new Kacy, she sucks, like whatever, and you're like, oh no, like they're talking about me. But if it was like, okay, you're this character and they're like, oh, like so and so sucks, and then it's like, okay, well that's not me. Like in my head, I feel like I'd be like, cool, that's not me. They're talking about like that's this.
That totally
that's
makes
this,
sense,
like,
though.
This person, that's like, you know, this alter ego person, whatever it might be. And so I was kind of excited to come in and like get a character, and then I didn't. They were like, no, like you have a name, we want you to keep your name, which I'm like, okay, I loved having my name. But at first I was like, oh man, I kind of wanted like a cool name. Then I got so used to having my name. I mean, it was like 3 years in, maybe more, probably somewhere around there. 8 years, it all blends together. But it was like many years in, and they had talked about a name change, and I was like, oh man, like now I've already had this, like it was hard for me to get behind. But then I was kind of like, okay, well now what I had thought originally, which is like, now I can have this like alter ego character, and I can kind of separate the like work from home, and I feel like that'll be a little bit healthier for me. You know what I mean? So coming up with the names, luckily they were very good about like helping me like and letting me have a big say in it. So it was kind of difficult because they were like, okay, because you had this big name before and you've been your name for so long, it needs to be something that's like, you can't be like Sarah now. Like you can't just be like a normal name.
Completely different.
Yeah, like completely different, and also like a regular name. You know what I mean? So I was like, okay, because there were other, some names that I would like. Not that Sarah's not a good name. Any Sarah's, that's a great name. But I'm just saying something that's could go still connected to me, even though it couldn't be me. So I was like, okay, well, I really want to keep my initials. So like my name is Kacy and my initials are KC. So I was like, okay, I want to keep my initials so that at the very least, if I had to like put KC on something, that could like still be me kind of. And then I was like, okay, what's a good K name and what's like a good C name? And when I was looking at K names and Katana like came up, I was like, oh, well, that's like kind of ninja-y. It's not like a regular name.
Was that through Mortal Kombat?
That's not how I found it, but when I did find it, people that I said it to were like, oh, like Mortal Kombat, like they were like, yeah, this is cool because of that, So I literally just went on like baby names, like cool K, like I was literally like baby K names and like cool names that start with a K. Like I was just lists and lists of Ks, like just looking. And I finally found Katana. I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. It's kind of ninja-y. It's still with a K. And then with Chance, I was like, okay, same thing. I don't want it to be like kind of normal. I want it to be a C. I also wanted something that I could eventually like use in a phrase or like use to make something out of it. So with Chance, I felt like it would be cool like if there was like one of my ideas was if there was like a talk show type thing where it was like, here's your chance or something, and like people could like come on and like, say what they wanted to say about something, or like, complain about something, or like even something for me like a merch thing being like, take your chance, here's whatever. I just thought Chance was cool, that there could be like things that I could use it with. So then I was like, okay, it's a K, it's a C, here we are. People were like, obviously half and half with it. Some people were like, this is cool. Some people were like, no, I want her to be this. So I feel like it was fun, but I'm happy to have my name back now.
Yeah. What was your reaction to finding out about being in the WWE video game?
That was so cool. I remember getting the, because I was going to be in the video game, when the video game came out, I got like this like shoebox looking thing, and I'm so grateful because my year it happened to be Rey Mysterio. So, and he's like one of my biggest idols, and so I love him. And so my box was like Rey Mysterio on it, super cool. You opened it and it was like the game in there and everything. And I remember when we did the scans for it, it's almost like you're doing stuff with work, but you don't like compute what it actually is going to be. You're just kind of doing it.
It's just like another wear your gear.
Yeah, wear your gear, come for this photo, like whatever. And so I thought it was cool, but then like when it actually came out and then they put out like the little video of your person like doing the entrance or something. And at the time, like I would like climb the, ring, whatever. And I was like, wait, I'm on this. And it's funny because it's like we're on TV already, but it was just different. I'm like, I'm in a video game. You know what I mean? Like when you watch and you see like, the football video games or like the wrestling video game, the basketball video games, you're like, these are the stars are on here, And so I feel like that was a very surreal moment for me to be like, oh, I'm going to be in the game? Like what? And then I like, I get to the next year, like, and you get to wear like this gear in the game. And like, I remember my family just being so excited and, like, everyone wants to get the game. You know, same with the action figure. It was like, yeah, the family want, like, that was just very, very surreal. I'm like, what is my life? You know what I mean?
Did you get to pick the gear for those?
For the video game, I got to, like they said, wear your gear. This is a scan for this. You know what I mean? At the one that I did. And then the action figure, I had no idea. It wasn't like, I don't remember being like choosing that gear. I could be wrong. Maybe they were like, show up in a gear that you want, but I feel like we had to do photos in all of our gears for like certain things for them to know stuff. So, because I'm envisioning my action figure and I'm like, would I have chosen that gear? I don't know. Maybe at the time I would have. But I mean, it was incredible. It's just like, oh, is my life real moment? You know what I mean? And like being able to, like my parents being like, oh yeah, we're going to Target. We're going to look for it. Like, you know, my sister, my people like sending me photos out at the store being like, we found this. Or like, you know, when like my boyfriend and his friends come over and they're like playing the video game and I'm like, oh, I'm on there. You know, it's just like, I'm very, very blessed.
When do you and Lacie really find that tag team chemistry?
It's so funny because like the very first match that we got put together was on a live event. And I think she had said it was like one of her first live events when she first got there. And for live events, you know, they're like, okay, we want just more people out there, more women out there. So they would just like kind of put people in tags together. You know what I mean? And so I don't know.
Was that what it was for you guys?
Yes.
Completely rent?
Yes.
Wow.
So I don't know how the first time it was. And they were just like, okay, cool. Like you guys are going to be whatever. And from the very first match, she had more experience wrestling than me. So like her mind was immediately going, like she would see the stuff that I was doing in like my own matches. And then she knew what she did. So we were kind of like, okay, like you do this thing, right? And she's like, yeah. And she's like, okay, well, I can do this thing and like set it up for you to do that. And then like it can be this. And I was like, oh, wow. Yeah. Okay, cool. And then like we would do something and it would just flow really well. And we were like, oh, wow, that was cool. You know what I mean? That like fit well together. And then the more that we kind of did that, the more that it became like an actual project. Like, oh, well, like if we're going to be teaming together, let's do this. We weren't like put on TV yet. And then we kind of started to like create that ourselves. Like after we saw the chemistry and like what it could be, we were like, okay, we need to show them like we can actually be a tag team. Like whether it's like doing fun videos together and showing them our personalities together and them seeing that, or us going out for this tag match and not just being like
just
okay.
a regular tag team.
Yeah,
like you guys had
like
moves together, which was so awesome.
So it was really cool how quickly that just was easy. Like it was just like we fit together. You know what I mean? And so she definitely, like I said, she has the more like out there creative mind. And then I more so like reel it in to make it possible, if that makes sense. So she'll say something and I'll be like, well, you think we can do that? Like, and then we do. You know what I mean? So I love that she would push me to that. But then there were moments, you know, she would suggest something and then it'd be like, but how can we make this work? How can we make this our own? How can we change this a little bit? And so then I would be able to reel it in a little bit and be like, okay, well, if we do this, maybe we land it this way, that's safer. And then if we do that, you know what I mean? So it was like the way that it like pieced together, it just worked out there.
Did you guys practice together 2 different move sets?
Like when we were tagging?
Yeah.
So
like outside of the matches. Yeah.
On our own, yeah. I mean, yeah, there was a time where like we were always doing our tag stuff, you know what I mean? To the point where like I remember different time periods where like that would happen and then like one of us would randomly have like a live event singles match, whether like one was hurt or one was something, and then it'd be like, wait, what do I do by myself? You know what I mean? Like actually being like, wait, I know I do a lot of stuff, but my brain is so like, what do we do as a tag? Which I love because like that's what we were doing and that's what we wanted to succeed at, and we were very passionate about it. So I love that we were just like full in it. But then there would be moments, there would be like, you know, even on the main roster where there would be like a main event or a speed match or a something where we would not be doing it as a tag, and we'd be like, wait, I actually need a few minutes to be like, remember the stuff that I do when it's just my stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to do more singles competitions?
We've always been very like 50-50 on it, where we love concentrating on being a tag team because that's what we do and we put so much work into it. But we've always been like, if there was a moment where like you could do something and I could support you in it, like I would want that to be able to broaden us a little bit. You know what I mean? Like if she was able to have a singles match and I could be there and support her, I would love that. And she was always like, cool, if KACY could ever do a singles match and I could be there, we would love it. So I feel like it's definitely something that I haven't like, neither of us have really shown our potential in, because we've always been seen as a tag team. But then there have been moments where like when we were both in triple threats separately for like a qualifying match, and I remember just being so proud like when she did her triple threat, and it was like, yeah, it's a triple threat, but you're still able to do like more single stuff. And like I remember being in Gorilla, like watching it, like I was like a proud parent. Because I never get to, like, I'm always, like, right there doing it and we're doing, you know what I mean? It's such a different, like, stress level than just, like, sitting back and watching and not being a part of it. And I remember being in Gorilla during this triple threat and just being, like, so proud. And she would do something that, like, she doesn't really ever do because, like, we wouldn't have time as a tag for us to do a lot of, like, our own stuff. And so it was really cool to see moments like that. I got to do my triple threat. She was excited to support that. So it's, like, I think that we definitely have that in us. Like, it would be fun to explore that. But we had always just been so, like, focused on we want to succeed. We want to, like, break boundaries as a women's tag team as well and do that together. So, like, that's always been really fun for us.
Does that chemistry bleed out into real life, like, during the week? Are you guys texting each other just, like, normal life stuff?
Yes, but mostly that normal life stuff is still, like, work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
well, that's what you guys love.
Yeah, it would always be, like, you know, she would text me, like, call me when you, whatever, and it would be, like, a random idea, or, like, we'd be like, okay, we should, like, sit down and write these pitches, or she would see something and be like, how can we do this and make it cooler, make it different, or, like, okay, what gear color are we gonna do, or just, like, hey, have you, like, seen this color, do you like this, like, there's always, or, like, okay, what hotel are we gonna stay at when we're here, like, was always something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's definitely, like, and it's funny because in real life, we're so different. Like, and in the ring too, but it's like almost like an opposites attract type scenario where it works. Like I said, where she's a little bit more rebellious, I like rein us in a little bit more. And I think in that way it works, where moments where I might play it safe a little bit more if I didn't have her in my ear being like, no, we can do this. And moments where, like, you know, maybe she needed to be reined in a little bit more to have this structure different, you know, we're able to balance each other out with that. So it's like such an unlikely pairing that when it's put together and you see us out there as a team, you're like, wow, this really works, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
What was winning the titles like?
Oh my gosh. So when we won the NXT tag team titles, that, if right now, like, one of your questions was like, what was like one of your favorite moments ever, it would be that. And I think that it was because the build up to that was so, like, grueling, and the fans were there for every bit of it. So for them to see us finally succeed and how much they actually cared was like, I can't even describe it. Like, we were in NXT for years at this point. I want to say maybe like 3 years at this point. Like, we are just grinding, you know, we're doing tag team stuff. We're in a lot of stuff, but nothing's ever really about us. You know what I mean? We're kind of always that supplemental person in someone else's story. Like, we did that for years, you know what I mean? And we're like just fighting to get in anything, fighting to get an opportunity. And the fans started to really get behind us. We're like, if, you know, there was a time like with Toxic Attraction where we had this like really long back and forth story with them when they had the titles and everything. And like, there were so many moments where you could tell that the crowd really wanted us to win and we didn't. And at the time you're like, oh, damn, we're losing again, you know, like, oh man, like, is it ever going to be our moment? Like, I hope they give us the opportunity to prove it, you know? And in those moments, it's like, I would not have had it any other way, because how badly they wanted us to win when it happened was worth all of the losses. You know what I mean? So like, I will never forget the video. There's a video of, and I want to say that it's even like a fan video. And it's like of me standing up to like do our 450 finish. And I get to stand up on the corner, and like, you just see all of the crowd behind me stand up. Like, I'll cry right now. Like, the whole crowd behind like stands up because like they knew, like, at that time, at that moment, like, everything in the match had already happened that could kind of happen, and things already got, like, you could just tell that they knew that it was going to happen. And, like, I stood up and they stood up, like, at the same time. And then, like, we do it, and it was just like they erupted. And it was like, I was so happy that they felt that whole journey with us. And it was like, you know, the climb was worth it and that they were there for all of that. So, like, that is one of my all-time favorite moments, is winning those titles.
That's what's so cool about wrestling is you're
Oh my
telling a story
gosh.
with no words. You're just dancing around.
I know.
It's insane.
It's like you couldn't even put it into words if you needed to. You know what I mean? It's more the feeling in that moment, and that is the exact moment that I would be like, this was it. Like, I felt it. I felt everything that you're supposed to feel, and I hope from watching it and seeing what they looked like, they were feeling all the things we wanted them to, and it was just like the perfect moment.
So cool.
It really was. Yeah, I'm so grateful.
Recently, there were some changes for you to possibly explore new opportunities.
Yes.
Have you thought about what you want to do going forward?
It's so funny because I'm like, this is the first time in my life, in my adult life, that I have really, well, it's only been like 2 weeks, but that I am going to really sit and think, like, what do I want to do? You know, like I said earlier, I did gymnastics my whole life. Back when I was in college, I had a scholarship for gymnastics. And back then with NCAA, like, we couldn't make money. We couldn't get sponsorships. Like, we couldn't do anything else. Like, we had our scholarship, and I was, like, grateful for that scholarship. I'm not going to mess it up. And so all I did for those 4 years was gymnastics in college. The second I graduated, I moved to Texas, and for the next 5 seasons, I was on American Ninja Warrior, which, like I said, every year you re-sign a contract with them, similar to any other type of non-compete. You know, you're on their show, they have your likeness, everything like that, for 5 years, all the way up until I switched to WWE. Immediately from there to now having 8 years with WWE, which I'm so grateful for. But very similar, where, like, my whole mind was just wrestling. Like I said, in between, like, text, normal life. Yeah, like, normal life is our gear, our pitch, our this. Like, that was just life. You know what I mean? And so it has been so long that I've just had to think, like, what actually do I want to do? You know what I mean? And it's a hard question. I feel like, you know, a lot of times when we're younger, we're like, I want to do this, you know, and I feel like for me, I've done so many different things up until now, where, like, growing up, I loved watching wrestling. I loved watching American Ninja Warrior. And now that I've done both of those in that certain aspect, I'm like, okay, well, am I done with that? Do I want to do more of either of those? Like, that's possible. You know what I mean? Do I want to do something different that I haven't done yet? And it's really a hard question. So I'm, like, sitting with, like, people are like, well, what are you passionate about? And what are you this? And I'm like, I know what I've been passionate about, but I don't know, now that, like, the world is open, I'm not sure what that looks like yet, which is, like, exciting. It's scary, but exciting.
Would you want to do Ninja Warrior again? Would you want to compete in the Indies?
Those are both very good questions. And my answer to both of them is it's possible. Definitely possible. It's definitely on my mind that I'm looking for. I just need to decide what my first step is going to be, if that makes sense. So I know that I have more potential in both of those avenues. I know that when it comes to American Ninja Warrior, you know, when I did leave, it was for a good reason, but I know that there were more things I had wanted to do, or more things I feel like I was capable of. And when it comes to wrestling, you know, I'm very grateful for my time there. And I also feel the same way, where I know that there are things that I'm capable of, and there is potential that I wasn't able to show. So, like, that's hard to walk away from, you know what I mean? So I feel like in both of those avenues, I feel that way, where, okay, I know that this could be explored further, and I know that I have the potential to do a lot more. So I just need to take the time to choose, like, what is that going to be? And I don't know yet, and that's kind of great, you know?
I want to see a book from you.
Really? Honestly, I feel like my life has been, like, I feel like there would be a lot to write about.
Because weren't you in the Junior Olympics too?
Well, when you compete in gymnastics, like, there are certain competitions that, like, if they're, like, national competitions, they're, like, I wasn't on the, like, Olympic journey or anything like that. I was, like, a level 10, which is, like, right under the elite like gymnasts that go to that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I always knew like I wanted to go to college and get a scholarship. I knew I wasn't on the path to be able to like do the Olympics or anything like that. But, you know, growing up, that was like a dream. And then, yeah, I feel like I've had so many different versions of my life, I feel like. That's why when we started talking about American Ninja Warrior, I'm like, man, this feels like a different person, which I guess there's all different like versions of you as you grow. But I feel like I've had so many different like areas of my life, like in New Jersey, in Texas, in Florida, in Maryland, in the like that.
Where are you now?
In Florida.
In Florida.
Yeah. And so I feel like, yeah, it would be interesting to like look back on all of those, and maybe I'll start thinking about it, start putting some things down, getting some thoughts going. But I appreciate that. That would be very cool, actually.
I called it for Natalia.
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
I didn't know that.
I did. I said, I have a feeling there's a book coming from you, and she just started it.
Yes.
And maybe once we're done recording, you'll be like, by the way.
No, yes. I actually have her book pre-ordered.
Yeah.
I think it comes in October, maybe?
Very soon, yeah.
Because I had pre-ordered it a while ago, but I think that I have to look at when it actually gets here. I ordered it and it was like, you know, it comes at this time, and I'm like, okay, I can't wait. So I'm actually really excited for that. But that's cool that you knew that. Okay, well, maybe you're manifesting it for me then.
I am.
I like that. Okay, well, I will keep that right here. Thank you.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for coming by. Thank you for opening up and sharing everything. And this has been really awesome hearing everything.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I love your enthusiasm, and you just made me feel so comfy and excited to talk about things. So thank you.
Where can everyone find you?
They can find me. Let me see. Oh, I have my name back. They can find me on Instagram.
Was that hard to get?
My name back?
Yeah.
It wasn't. It was just like I was stressed about it because when they made the change on social media, I remember saying like, when you change it, will my name still be safe? Because I'm gonna want my name back, you know.
Eventually,
and they were
yeah.
eventually, no matter what, you know. And they were like, yeah, we'll be able to get it back. So as soon as this happened, I was like, hey, like, can I get my name back? They were like, yeah, we'll give you to this person, and then like it took a few days through everything. So as it was like needing to happen, I was like, man, what if it doesn't happen? I mean, it's not a huge deal, but I was just like very excited. So when I did get my name back, I was very happy about that. So yes, you can find me on everything just as at KACY CATANZARO, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, X. Oh my gosh, I feel like such an old person. I know nothing. I'm not very good at social media, but yes, you can find me all there.
Cool. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
That was so good.
You think? I was so nervous.